I'm Dan Ton. I'm with the Power System Engineering Research and Development within the Office of Electricity in the U.S. Department of Energy. And tonight I'd like to talk to you about the microgrids and specifically focused on the distribution utilities. So our office leads the grid modernization within the Department of Energy, and we work with other offices within the department to ensure that the grid modernization not involve the resiliency, reliable, and flexible electricity system. We're not only focusing on the technical aspects, but also looking at the security, resilience, as well as the institutional support and alignment as well. So this office, this program foresees the technical requirements for advancing the microgrid to a fully integrated entity. That's why distribution utilities is an important focus in our work to make sure that we have the distribution interacting seamlessly with the microgrid. So in the past, we have been working on workshops, development of the gaps, developing of use cases, and the development of the technology for the microgrid controller. Currently, we continue to do the microgrid controller and the distribution system, management system simulations, the standards, the testing. In the future, we wanted to use our tools that we have developed to work with communities and utilities for further collaborations to look at the field demonstration of the technology that we have developed and also support the regulatory reform for the microgrid. So I wanted to introduce the advanced microgrid concept. In the past, the traditional concept is the microgrid disconnect from the utility and provide the reliability and resiliency that serve the customers. With this concept, a microgrid is the one that can provide function not only at the point of common coupling, but also beyond the basic islanding and synchronization. The advanced microgrid can interact with the larger grid cooperatively to managing power flow across the DCC to optimize the benefits for both, not just the customers, but also for the larger grid. So I've seen Jack talking about the parallel operating of microgrid with the grid. So that's a similar concept. So we follow the public-private partnership. Every time we wanted to develop the program, we use workshops. In this case, we have two. In 2011, we have used the workshop to define the DOE 2020 targets. And those are the targets that look at the resiliency, the outage time for the critical infrastructure, the reducing of emission, and also improving the energy efficiency as well as the cost. It's important that has those specific cost targets, and I'm going to go through that more in details later. The second workshop focused on the areas of focus for us. So we're looking at the planning and design as well as operation and control. So following those workshops, these are the areas that we're focusing on our R&D activities. The first one is we're looking at the design and planning tools. We have developed tools that can help microgrid design the optimization of the 4 targets that I have talking about, and look at the impact analysis of microgrid interconnection with the distribution system. We've looked at the control and the power flow for the microgrid, the distribution system, and there are some products that I'm going to talk a little bit more later. We're also looking at device and testing, and also the standards of the microgrid. one of the areas that we've been working with the industries to develop is the microgrid controller. So the objective of the controller is to optimize the targets that I have talking about. How do we make the system that are efficient, reliable, resilient, but also cost effective and reducing the emission. So this is the control that allow community to bring those things together and optimize them. So the control, the 7 awards in this program, and one of the slide in John Caldwell is the TDX. One of the community that have been awarded for this is TDX in company in St. Paul. So a lot of times testing is expensive. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, and so our program has been working with National Labs to provide the testing capabilities for them to test their controller according to the standards that we have developed. So that help reducing the risk and cost for industry. In terms of the standards, there are 2 standards that I wanted to mention here. One is to how do we design a microgrid controller that are more standardized. A lot of activities that we see in the industries that are single applications, proprietary. So it's increasing the cost. If we can do it more a standard way, it will lower the cost for the whole market. The second one is how do we test the microgrid controller so that it would be standardized across different users. Just briefly mention the structural DMS project. One of the efforts that we are working on is how to integrate microgrid with the distribution system. And so in this effort, we looking at the 2 phases. One is to look at what are the functions of the distribution management system, and what are the functions of the microgrid controller, and how these 2 devices or systems can work with each other. So the next step for this project is to find, after we have done the study, we have simulate that in a testing a model in a lab environment. Now we are in a phase where we can actually demonstrate the integration of microgrids and distribution system, and there are a couple locations where we are planning to do that in the near future. Just want to go through some example of the type of research that we've done with our stakeholders. One of this particularly study is with EPRI, and it is very detailed, looking at the different entities and how the interaction between these entities should happen and when. Okay, so with that, I just want to summarize that our program has been focusing on providing tools and ways to reduce the risk and cost for microgrid to become more mainstream. We have applied those tools to communities like New Orleans, New Jersey transit system, in Hawaii or in remote areas like Alaska. We would like to continue to, work with communities to bring more tools, and we develop them to make the community more resilient.